everyone. Hard to believe. I don't know if y'all noticed we're almost halfway through July, which is absolutely insane. Um, Feel like I'm not anywhere caught up on where I'm supposed to be for this time of the year, but that's okay. We're gonna get through it together. I know folks are busy. Hopefully, everybody had a good 4th of July weekend, holiday last weekend. Know it's a Friday. Know it's a Friday morning. So we'll try to stay on time and not run over and maybe give folks a few minutes back. I think there's a couple of update items on the agenda, just so folks know what's going on a couple of different projects, and then a couple of items of discussion as well. I think I may reorder our agenda slightly. Still do all the things, but I think maybe do the update items first so that we can save the rest of the time to talk about roadshow as well as the state service plan. And you all should have gotten some information from Latifa yesterday about that. So we'll do some update items first. Latifa, do you actually want to start with CSP? Anything you want to share with the group?
Sure thing. Um, Really quickly, I think the last time we spoke, uh, the update on members hasn't actually changed as much, but our recruitment officer, Tasha Price, who's over at Ascend Bank has been very awesome, intentional, like getting the word out there and meeting with folks one-on-one. So she is in the process of helping us meet our goal of 30 members by our first year in the pilot. Um, Right now, there are seven. And of course, the core members, there are 15 core members. That's the leadership team. They also are members. So technically, right now, we have, about 22 members, but we would like to see a full 30 outside of the core group. Um, so that is something that's happening. Recruitment. We have put together, I think, a pretty decent, solid, at least for our capacity at this time, onboarding plan. So they get a welcome email from us or from Volunteer Tennessee, but it's really from Nikki and Wade, the chair, co-chair. And then there's a one-on-one meeting that is, optional, but they can meet with Tasha Price, who's the recruitment officer. And the first learning session, which we're calling Purpose Exchanges, that's going to happen in August. We are working on a timeline of getting the word out within 6 weeks' time, and it's going to actually be the last week of August. So um, maybe actually I can, Candace, I can think through maybe how we could make that align with the roadshow. But anywho, it is supposed to be the last week of August. And we're going to start getting the word out there next week on when that's going to be. We just got some final dates from the core group on what would work and what wouldn't work. Um, what's up? And then the next thing coming up is an October special event, which is going to be kind of, very distinct from the learning sessions. Instead of like learning education purposes, this is more like networking, coming together for fun, and potentially having some service aspects. So the core group is brainstorming now or has actually provided feedback. We need to take a look at that on what that could be. I think we're going to go in the direction of like a corporate social purpose, speed dating, or bingo. And of course, one of our core members will host us. So we'll have an update next time we connect. I think those are the main things we're thinking of on the core end. And then internally, Candace, Jim, and I met yesterday. We meet monthly with Nathan, and the concern or the main focus for us right now internally is how can we accept dues. And so that conversation is going with the state right now to see if we can accept credit cards. Of course, we were like looking into Friends Volunteer Tennessee, but they don't have the capacity at this time. So that is where we are. And if anyone has any questions, just let me know. I'll pass it back to you, Nathan.
Awesome. Any questions for Latifa? Very good. Very, very good. Excellent. Okay. Update in the chat if you didn't see. Tennessee Nonprofit Network statewide conference is in Nashville on August 28th. Anything you want to share about that in more detail?
Oh, I just wanted to, if there were any events that Latifa was talking about that might have been in or around that date, I could potentially be there since we'll be there. But if you all are interested in coming to our conference, we'll be at the Gaylord, what is it, Resort and Conference Center. Woohoo, fancy. There with about 500 other nonprofit leaders. So feel free to join us.
Very good. And is that your members only, or is that open to anyone?
It's open to anyone. It's open to anyone. Yeah, and we will have some. I think maybe 1 or 2 volunteer track sessions, but we will have like finance, operations, HR, all the things around nonprofits. So
Very good. Awesome.
and some
Thank you.
corporate sponsors there. So yeah.
Very good. Okay. Jim, not to put you on the spot. You and I chatted earlier this week, and I forgot to ask you this, and I meant to, so my apologies. I'll ask you now. I know we had chatted briefly couple of calls back in regards to the communications staff position, and I know we were holding off due to all of the uncertainty that has and continues to exist. Just curious if there are any updates on that, or what the latest is, or if we're still in that same kind of holding position.
Yeah, we're still in the same position. In fact, one of the things we were just kind of chatting about before the meeting got started is that America's Service Commissions had a call yesterday with Senator Blackburn's staff, and they invited us, of course, to participate. So I and a couple of commissioners joined. And kind of the key message in that call from ASK was that the Office of Management and Budget is currently has not released some funding. Some of it goes specifically to state service commissions, and some of it goes to AmeriCorps programs. But they're kind of sitting on those 2 bits of funding, and until the money comes through for the state service commissions, we'll have to keep pausing our search for that vacant position, because we won't have enough funding to cover that position.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Any questions from folks in regards to that? I know I've gotten a couple of questions about that, so I just thought I'd open it up. And as a reminder, for the folks on the call that may not know, since we don't currently have a communications person, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Latifa has been, is that accurate, Latifa? You've been trying to handle the newsletter and some of that, or has that been split amongst a couple of other staff, or what does that look like? Just so folks know.
Yeah, we're split. So I'm doing social media, and Lizzie has taken charge on putting in to the newsletter platform.
Perfect. Okay. Just so everybody's aware. So right now that work has been split. Not ideal, the situation we're currently in, but so there's definitely a couple of extra tasks on a couple of staff members' plates that normally would have been this person's. So just wanted to make sure you all were aware of that as well. Any questions about any of those things? And Jim, thanks for pulling some folks together on that call yesterday. It sounds like it went well from what I gather. So, okay. With that, I think let's jump into roadshow, and then we'll maybe jump into the state service plan. So a couple of quick updates on the roadshow. Some of this folks on the screen may already know. Some of this may be new information. So Candace has been working really hard to secure all of the wonderful locations for our roadshow stops over the next couple of months. As a reminder, what we decided to do is, instead of doing several stops within a short period of time, we're going to do 3 or 4 stops within a 7-day period, actually doing 1 stop in each division per month over the next couple of months. So it's a little bit more manageable for the staff, who, again, right now we're a little short staffed, so it's a little bit more manageable for the staff and the folks on the screen. But also it gives us a chance to be a little bit more thoughtful about recruiting and inviting folks to come to those, really trying to get the word out. So the first one, and I'm trying to pull these off the top of my head, so Latifa or Candace, if I get one of these dates or locations wrong, please tell me. Sewanee is our first one, which is the end of the month, so July 29th. So we'll be there at the school on campus. So that will be our first one. That will be our pilot. We're very excited about, and they're excited to be hosting us. August 20th is in Clarksville. Again, off the top of my head, I think that's correct. And Jackson in September 25th. Did I get those right, Candace? Okay. Brownie point for me for today. Very good. So those are the 3 that we officially have on the book. So again, July 29th, Sewanee, August 20th, Clarksville, and then September 25th in Jackson. The goal, again, east, middle, west, relatively. We did in the conversation, and we shared this on previous calls, try to aim towards doing those in somewhat more rural communities, because a lot of times we give a lot of the love and attention to the metro areas, and sometimes that can cause us not always get all the right feedback. Not to say these will be the only 3 that we will do. We've had conversations about perhaps doing some more in some metro areas a little down the line, some other roadshow stops. But for the purposes of these initial 3 to get us through some of the state service planning and things, again, aiming towards those 3 locations, Suwanee, Clarksville, Jackson. The day for those is going to look relatively the same with maybe some slight tweaks for each one. So folks will start the day off with Jim on the more state service planning feedback focus group portion of the day. So they'll spend the first portion in that. And that's really where they're giving input on the state service plan that then will come back to us to add to our conversation as we make those final decisions over the next few months. So that will be feedback that we'll be able to look at and bring into the consideration as we're making final decisions. So that'll start off those sessions. And then those sessions, once the focus group feedback portion of the event is over, we'll then transition to more of a like coffee and networking style. So that's just a chance for folks a little bit more casually to just get to know one another. There may be people in the room that aren't connected, right? You may have some folks from the Corporate Social Purpose Network. You may have some folks from the commission. You may have folks from AmeriCorps, whether that be a program or a member or an alum. You may have folks that are just a nonprofit agency that just is high level involved in volunteerism in some way, and any number of other partners. We may have some CERT individuals that may be in the room. So it's really just a chance for folks to connect, get to know one another, hopefully get to know and meet some commissioners and staff that will be on site at those. And as a portion of that, again, the networking and the coffee, there will also be a very brief program. Program is probably a light word, maybe remarks is the better word, right? Because we really want people to have time to connect. But a quick opportunity to do a welcome and a thank you on behalf of Volunteer Tennessee, both the staff and the commission, a high-level overview of what the organization is, the role that it plays, and then a chance to highlight, at least at the 30,000-foot level, some of the key initiatives and signature programs. And as a part of that, we're also going to be very intentional about trying to highlight a story or 2. So, for example, in Suwanee, I think Latifah is working on getting us an individual to actually be able to speak very briefly regarding AmeriCorps, right? So just a chance to offer some stories and actually put some faces and not just so much slides and data throwing them at folks. So that's what the day itself will look like. Again, it's not a set down lunch. It's not a fancy reception. It's focus group style, followed by a little bit more of just networking and coffee. The whole thing, of course, from start to finish, by the time we're there setting up and by the time we're taking down, it's just a couple of hours. So it's not a big event. They're fairly casual. We're not trying to make them super fancy necessarily. So questions about that, and then I'll share a couple other things. Yeah, Amy.
So when we initially were talking about this last fall, we mentioned making some disaster relief resources available at these roadshow events. Maybe not necessarily a presentation, but maybe some guide, easy, like a guide. And that might bring some more people in, because I know that's a big topic.
Yeah.
And when there is one, then it uses a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if that was still something we had thought about.
I think I think I'll add, and then Candace may have some thoughts too. I definitely think, of course, CERT I think will get mentioned in the presentation-y portion. I do think there might be a possibility. I don't know what materials or collateral Don might have, and of course, in terms of whether or not Don will physically be at these, I don't know if that's necessarily the plan. Could be, could not be. I don't know. But it could even be as simple as us doing a booth, perhaps. Like we have a dedicated space in there where we have some materials laid out where they can, since that, again, to your point, right? We've had our own disasters. We've had disasters in neighboring states, and then with what's happening in Texas, this is most certainly on the front of everybody's minds. So I think that perhaps is a possibility. I'm assuming Don probably has some sort of CERT collateral. Candace, do you have thoughts on that? I know we chatted briefly several weeks ago, but I know we haven't talked about it here recently.
Um, Good morning, everybody. I am, I'm not sure what Don has. I feel like every time he comes around, he has even more resources than ever before. So I am happy to make note of that, Amy and team, to see what exactly Don has.
Mhm.
Um, I think the question is it something for all three dates, or are we looking to focus on one particular date, or just, just sort of how that looks? So when I ask him, I can ask how much he actually has to give out. I know he has pamphlets
Mhm.
and things like that because he just has so much stuff, but to
Mhm.
staff all three, I would have to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should offer some information, maybe or not, at all three. I mean, well, that was one of the things that we talked about that connected a lot of the resource needs
Mhm.
in special circumstances, and a lot of people are aware in the news of all these things happening, and I do think it might bring some extra people in. I don't know, but
Yep.
I'm not sure what resources are available to a lot of people in these rural areas, so it might
Mhm.
be helpful.
Yeah. I mean, even
Are we
in the,
planning to,
sorry,
oh,
go ahead,
go ahead,
Candace.
Nathan.
Sorry. No, you
No,
go.
I was just going to ask, are we planning to highlight, like during our little brief program, are we planning to highlight all of our initiatives? So AmeriCorps CERT, Corporate Social Purpose, the conference, as well as GVSA?
That is what I had on my list in the sample document that I've been working on this morning. That yeah, so we would highlight all of the signature programs, all the big things. I think so. Yes, highlight all of them. But again, if we're doing all of that with a welcome in a 15-minute period, right? So you're not going to be able to get too in the weeds. What I am curious about though is as we mention some of those things, are there some again, part of this will depend on who's in the room, right? I mean, if Latifa happens to be in the room on that particular day and somebody has a questions about AmeriCorps, right? The ability to say, hey, and if you want to know more, go chat with, go introduce yourself to Latifa, right? Or oh, go introduce yourself to Don. So that may be part of it too, is thinking through who's in the room and how do we give a teaser up here from the microphone, but then encourage people to connect? Maybe that needs to happen a little bit. But I do think, yes, Candace, I think highlighting it, at least at the high level, what it is, encouraging every county in the state to have one, right? I think being able to vocalize some of those things, I think can happen as a part of the quote unquote program. Other thoughts on that? And thank you for bringing that back up, Amy. I know we had that on the list a while back, and then a lot has happened since then. So if you haven't noticed, a lot has happened. Okay. So back on the roadshow broadly, so a couple of other updates. So Latifa and Candace and I had a chance to meet earlier this week and spent a significant amount of time talking about the roadshow, the marketing of it, getting folks there, what that looks like. So I wanted to chat just briefly high level. So what we decided, and I think what is probably the best direction forward, if you may have noticed, if you read your Volunteer Tennessee newsletters, is it is out there. It has been publicized. What is in the newsletter does not include hard locations. It just says East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, West Tennessee, and has the dates. So it doesn't include the hard times and the hard locations. The rest of the communications we're going to start putting out are going to have those more specific details. So folks can really make the decision of, can I drive to a Clarksville? Can I drive to a Sewanee? Can I drive to a Jackson? That sort of a thing. What we are hoping to do is utilize existing networks and existing communication components or infrastructures to get the word out about these and try to target some key partners. Obviously, we have a lot of partners kind of broadly that get the Volunteer Tennessee newsletter. We get a lot of partners broadly and stakeholders that are on our social media accounts where we will publicize. During our discussion, what we discussed was trying to share it through existing networks. So Latifa is going to try to utilize the Corporate Social Purpose Network to send out an invite. So hopefully we'll have a couple of our corporate partners in the room in some of those spaces. Doing the same with our AmeriCorps programs, members, alums, the AmeriCorps space as a whole. Again, sending it out through that network. And I think Latifa is going to help us with those particular two. I think we can ask, Don's not on this call, but I will ask Don this. I've not chatted with him yet. But the CERT, I know CERT, I received some CERT newsletters from Don as well. I think there are folks that may have an interest in attending, Amy, to your point, that are working in that space or have an interest in knowing more about it. So I think sending it out through those components as well. In addition to that, two external opportunities. One is, I know our United Ways throughout the state of Tennessee, several of them are serving as volunteer centers. Several of them receive some sort of grants or have in the past, or at least they have large scale connections to nonprofits in some regional areas. So I have made an ask to some folks at the statewide United Way level if they would be happy, if they would help us kind of push it out to the United Ways across the state, and they said yes. So we will, they'll basically take our language, our document, just say, hey, Volunteer Tennessee is hosting this. We encourage you to attend if you're available and near. And what I was going to ask, she's the one person on my list that I have not had a chance to connect with, but she happens to be on this call, is if Andrea might be interested in doing the same through the Tennessee Nonprofit Network. If possible. And I think she might have hopped off screen for a minute, so I may have to ask her again later. But again, trying to think thoughtfully about who are all of our stakeholders. We've got corporate philanthropy stakeholders, we've got AmeriCorps stakeholders, we've got CERT stakeholders, we've got nonprofit stakeholders, we've got just supporters and advocates and volunteers in and of themselves. So definitely trying to utilize all the existing networks to make sure that we've got at least a somewhat diverse representation of stakeholders at each of those. So if you all yourself have access to any key groups or folks that you want to invite, both broadly and specifically, when we finalize these materials, I'm hoping that they're finalized today. When we finalize those materials, we'll be sure to share it out with the committee and the commissioners as a whole. So please share it on your social networks, share it one-on-one if you know of organizations you think should be engaged, or if you're a part of an organization that has a network and you're like, hey, let's send this out to the network. You'll have all of the language, you'll have a copy of kind of what the day will look like, and you're welcome to send that out. So that's what that process will look like. So really sending out to the masses, not necessarily direct one-on-one invites. For the folks on this screen and the commission as a whole, there are two specific asks. One of those asks and heavy encouragements is if you are available and near for any or one or more of those dates, we want to encourage you to engage and be a part of those as well. The Roadshow is an initiative of the commission. Of course, Jim and Candace and Latifah and the staff are offering support and helping us pull it off the ground, but this was a brainchild of some of the folks on this screen, myself included, and some others. We're the ones that advocated for it. We're the ones that supported it. And we need to be the ones to help get it across the finish line. So again, we'll have some staff support at each of those in some capacity, but commissioners are really important and vital to this. So I'm going to plan to go to at least 2 of the 3 myself. If there's one that fits your schedule that you're able to make it to, that would be great. And we'll send out a formal communication to the commission to just ask folks which one they may be coming to. Really 2 roles you might play there. One is you might just be able to help kind of broadly in a volunteer capacity, set up, take down, that sort of a thing. There may be some slight volunteer needs. From Jim and I's conversation earlier this week, there may be a couple of needs just here and there, depending on the number of people with the focus group portion. But really just simply being there is really important, right? Like as a commissioner, being able to connect to these nonprofits. Some of you all may not have been able to meet some of our corporate social purpose network members yet. This may be a chance to do that, right? So just being there, being present, I think will say a lot. So that is the first big ask, is look at your calendars. If you're able, please join us. Again, we'll send out a specific email communication to inquire about that. And then the third or the second item, specific ask of you all, again, is to help uplift it. So please share it. Please invite folks. Whether or not you can attend yourself, please invite folks. So Candace, what did I miss? That was a lot of talking at. Was that an accurate reflection of our conversation this week?
I believe so.
Okay.
I can't think of anything that you have missed so far. So I think we're good to go. Just the who's going to be there and the word getting out, I think, are just the 2 probably most important things, and just finalizing what that agenda looks like.
Yep.
but that would be all. Yep. So you wrapped it up. Thank you, Nathan.
Perfect. And like I said, we, Candace, Latifah, and I have been, I just sent a draft back to them this morning. Have been working on a little bit of a more public facing one pager that we could actually attach to an email that kind of says, here's the goals for this, here's who's invited, here's what you can expect the day to look like, here's the dates and how to RSVP on a one pager. Once we finalize and tweak that, we will get that sent out to you all as well. And please share it. Please invite folks, but it'll have all of the basic core information on it. And then, of course, we can answer questions as needed. Andrea, you, I think, had hopped off when you may have heard what I had said earlier. If you are willing and able, I don't know if you're allowed to, but feel free to share through the network, through your network, whether that be formally or informally. I know a lot of the nonprofit stakeholders are connected with you all in some capacity. So if there's any way to encourage them to help offer input on the state service plan, we definitely would welcome that. Yeah, and like I said, I'll send a follow-up to this. Once we finalize these materials, I'll send it to everyone so you'll have something you can share out, a one pager. So okay. Other final thoughts on the road show? And Andrea, if you're talking to us, you're muted.
You're still muted, Andrea.
Who, me?
Oh, you were
No,
talking.
my coworker is talking to me in the other room, and I'm trying to have two conversations and be
You're good.
present. But I look like I was talking to y'all, didn't it? I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. You're good. No worries. No worries.
No, I was trying to see how I could log into the event. Do y'all? Well, I guess my question is: do you have one of these Facebook pages for each event, or are all of them on that one?
Yeah, so right now it's all on one because that was the easiest thing for me to do super quickly.
Which is
But
fine.
it's recurring, so it recurs on custom to the other dates.
Gotcha.
And then it
Okay.
references the other dates in the description. And then I just need to add the times. Yes.
No, that's fancy. So I'm gonna invite some people now. It is. I don't do this, so somebody did it. That's great.
Me either. I figured it out in real time. I do have
Let
a
me go
question,
on mute and
Nathan.
talk to myself.
If I can pose a question, Nathan, to the
Yeah,
group.
of course.
So Lizzie is actually over getting connected to any of our AmeriCorps programs. And if this group would like an AmeriCorps staff to present a chat at each one, I think actually what we did talk about was not having an AmeriCorps program each time. But if we do want that, then we need to get the word out to them post-haste. So if that's the direction that we're going to go, then we would just need to get that green light from the group.
Yes. Green light. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Michelle, to you.
light. Yes. Yeah. Again,
Okay.
not necessarily that they're presenting, but I think having somebody in the room for each of them, I think would be great. Yeah. They don't necessarily have to have anything prepared, but you know, when people have AmeriCorps questions, it's AmeriCorps person will be probably the best to answer them, right? So
Exactly. Wunderbar.
And then
And just the
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to give one quick update. So what we can do right now, social media wise, is one post a week. I would like to increase that. We do have 2 social media interns, but they're working on other projects. And this obviously is a priority because it's about to come up. But it could be up to 2 posts. If the commission wants more, then I would definitely welcome this group with any creative spirits to join in on the efforts to create those. But at this time, it's definitely 1 post minimum, maybe like a LinkedIn message every week as well, something on Instagram. But that's what we are doing right now.
Thank you, Latifah. Candace, you had your hand up.
I am sprucing up our press release that I will shoot over to you, Nathan and Jim, just so you guys can put your eyes on it. But I did have one question about the AmeriCorps presence that Lizzie had, and you mentioned it, so thank you for sparking that. But she was wondering, even if they're not going to present, and this is something that I would need to know so I can know if we do indeed need that space and tabling, but are we looking to have additional tables there for people, like as Amy was saying, with the resources that Don could set something up? Do we want those tables available for maybe that one AmeriCorps or Don's resources? Do you guys want that tabling kind of feel or not? Because if so, it's fine. I just want to
Mhm.
reach out to make sure that we have the space available for those tables and where we're reserved.
Well, I think if we do have materials and we're not doing a this is just my input. If we're not doing a full presentation, but there are some nice takeaways, like Don seems to always have something. So if there's some information
Always.
they can come up and ask questions or take away at a table, I think that would generate more interaction as well, rather than a
Okay.
bunch of people in a room when they don't really, it might create a focus for the programs.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
my input. So
I would agree with that. My one question, Candace, would be, and we haven't talked about it, so nobody on the call may know the answer to this, but it may be if we were to do that, which I do like, is do those require somebody to staff them per se, right? Like if Don
It
isn't coming, if he's only coming to some of them or not coming to all of them, or are we able to just put the stuff out and it's just like there, or does somebody have to be there that's quote unquote working the booth? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. For what it's worth, I think that anything that is Volunteer Tennessee related, we could speak about it in general. We can speak generally about CERT, or I can, and I'm sure the staff can as well, or corporate social purpose.
Mhm.
AmeriCorps, we can speak generally about those, but as
Mhm.
far as our AmeriCorps programs, I think it
Mhm.
would be a more successful table if we had a member or a staff to come and speak on their program.
Mhm.
But that's just my 2 cents.
Yep.
But so I guess that's a yes and a no, and that would just depend on the programs that would be
Mhm.
available to come and do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that sounds accurate. So maybe the plan right now is probably yes to a table or two. What exactly is at that table, and but yeah, I think if physically in terms of if there's space for a table, if they have a table or two, um, or we could put out some collateral. One really could be AmeriCorps a little bit more dedicated if we know we're going to have an AmeriCorps person at each one, right? And then
Mm,
one could potentially be just really even broadly voluntary tissue initiatives, right? Like I don't know, Latif, if we have a CSP collateral yet that could be printed, but or a one pager, or if we've got something equivalent for your conference, Candace, or it could even be that there's somewhat of or just a resource table. I don't know. I feel like there's
just
some
like
options.
a Volunteer Tennessee
Yeah, because
table is kind of what I'm hearing from you.
yeah, that
Okay,
has kind of a sprinkling of all the things, perhaps. Yeah,
I got you. I like sprinkling. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
um, we can. Okay, I'm noting that. I think that's a great idea. Um, so okay, okay.
Other other things on the road show. So the biggest thing right now is the marketing and getting folks there. Candace again is serving as point person kind of with those sites directly. She's her and her interns are taking care of the RSVPs, but getting folks there and us being there to assist. That's really that's in our realm. That is in our bucket to do. So again, I'll just reiterate that. Please, please, please let us know which ones you're able to attend. We'll send out a communication about it specifically, but also encourage folks to attend, utilize the networks you may have to encourage folks to attend. There will be a limit on the number of people at those, but Candace and her team, I think, are keeping track of that and will communicate that as needed. And then, of course, you all being there physically. So thanks so much to Candace. She's put a lot of time, a lot of offline meetings with sites, with other people to get all these things moving, especially in a short time frame. So Candace, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Anything else you want to add? Any final thoughts?
I do. I have just one final thought, and that is, I know we haven't talked about this, but I can send as often as you would like an update on how many people we have and who's coming. I know we haven't chatted about that, but that is something that I can uh, provide as soon as you guys want. Right now, we only have we've generated interest of, I'm just giving a round number, maybe about 5 participants at each location. So that's rolling, that's good. But I can just send it out weekly or a couple of times a week if that helps. Or I can update the spreadsheet in there, and you guys can go on whenever you like and check the status of it. But that was the last thing that I had.
What would be, I appreciate you saying what would be helpful for us. What would be helpful for you? I think
It
updates
matters
would be
not.
great, but what would be the most efficient and the simplest? A weekly, here it is, or would the spreadsheet be simpler?
The spreadsheet is going to be updated regardless. So
Okay.
that is available for everybody at any time. But weekly, I think for me, weekly, I can just send it to you, Nathan and Jim,
Okay.
and whoever wants to be. But I'll let you spread it out to
That's
whether
perfect.
it's just this commission, like whether it's just this committee or the whole commission. I can
Okay.
send that out weekly, but it'll be available for anybody to check in at any time.
That'll be perfect. Well, let's do that. As long as it's not more extra
Okay.
work on you, I think that's great. Yeah.
It's a copy and paste link. Here you go.
Perfect.
So yes. Okay. Perfect.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Candace. Appreciate it. Okay. With that, I think we've got about 20 minutes left. So I think we can transition to state service plan. So you all should have seen the email that Latifa sent out. I believe it was yesterday or day before yesterday. But an email went out the last day or two that had the draft survey. Correct me if I'm wrong, Latifa. Had the draft survey. So this is basically the document that we are going to ask commissioners to complete to offer feedback. So again, we want to the goal ultimately, big picture, is we need to get to some sort of a pause place that folks at these roadshow locations and external partners can respond to. So this is a little bit of kind of the last chance for commissioners to make some edits and offer some input in addition to what is happening externally. So the document, and Latifa has just dropped it in the chat as well. So if you have not had an opportunity to kind of pull that up and look at it again, it's in the chat. It's also should be in your email from yesterday. But it has those outcomes and those goals kind of broken down. And there are some specific targeted questions for folks to think about as it relates to each of those questions, some prompts. Jim has already gotten a little bit of feedback, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, and I think has actually gone in. Some of the things in yellow are things that he has gone in and has added based off of some feedback from some other commissioners. Jim, anything, is that correct? Add to that.
Yeah, that's all correct. Although I think for the purposes of the discussion that's remaining, what we want to do, I mean, of course, the survey is going to go out to the commissioners probably today, and they'll have a couple weeks to think about it and fill it out. But we also want to have the committees particularly start thinking about what some of the outcomes for each of those goals might be. So I think that would be kind of a good place for the committee to kind of pick up discussion. So that's essentially under each goal, the first question, what are some potential outcomes for this goal that we might achieve at the end of 2028? And it doesn't have to be polished or if it's too hard to start thinking about actual numbers at this point, that's fine too. Mm-hmm. But at least some sort of direction in terms of what the committee thinks should be some outcomes.
Okay. Very good. So, and you said, so on the document that and I'm actually I'll just share my screen. Maybe that's easier as opposed to us talking about this in the metaverse. Are you able to see my screen? Maybe that's helpful. Okay. And I can zoom in a little bit here. Oh, not that much. Nope. We get one or the other here. Okay. So you're saying, Jim, what would probably be helpful at this moment in time for the next few minutes, very high level, is just maybe go through each of the goals and think through ways this committee specifically, or broadly the commission, might engage with those goals, or some specific outcomes that would go with those goals. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And again, specifically under each goal, that first question, what are the outcomes? I mean, the other stuff we can come back to if there's time, but we can also capture that as part of the survey.
Okay. Very good. So if any questions about that process, and then if so, maybe we can spend the next 15 or 20 minutes and we can at least do the high level, to Jim's point, maybe just the first, some quick bullet points. Doesn't have to be too in the weeds, but at least get us thinking. And then of course, when the survey actually goes out, you'll have a chance as an individual to get more in the weeds and offer some specific thoughts, but an initial high level overview. So does that work for everyone? And we'll just do that for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you can see what's on the screen. So goal 1, or goal A, the first goal, supporting a robust network of volunteers and service learners, specifically about the volunteers. And then you kind of see a little bit of a breakdown here on what that looks like. So I think for this particular goal, we are actually talking about the volunteers themselves, right? Not so much the organizations they're volunteering with, but the people that are physically out volunteering. How do we increase those numbers of people? The experience portion of that, how do we recognize those people? That's the awards component. So, and you'll see a couple of examples of what some outcomes might look like based here in yellow that Jim has added. For example, we want to increase Tennessee's volunteerism rate by blank percent by 2028, or the number of volunteers utilizing initiatives, or we will have all 95 counties represented in GVSA. So these are metrics that are directly tied to volunteers themselves. Amy.
So, really all of these involve marketing and getting more messaging out. And how do we do that? We had talked about it. I don't know what progress we might have made in working on, because Nancy Shalene was going to help with it, making searches easier on the SERVS network, making it easier for nonprofits, people to find nonprofits in certain things. I mean, it was a little hard to search. And we had talked about it multiple years about, maybe improving the access to volunteers, and from volunteers access to opportunities with a campaign type of thing versus just like some posts on social media. So I think we have to come up with a campaign, and that's going to actually be something that could potentially support a number of these goals. But I feel like it's just catch as catch can, and I'm not really aware of what all volunteer is putting out there. And I know you're short-handed right now, but I just feel like there needs to be an overall campaign to promote volunteerism, Tennessee Serves, and opportunities. Like a marketing campaign, not, just something in the newsletter. And I know we do a number of things that are really important. The other thing, and, I don't know if the First Lady can help with that, there may be a way to do a PSA or something with multiple marketing strategies. Just ideas throwing out, because it is hard to navigate. People don't really know about it. I mean, you can't grow it unless people can find it, or it's easy to find things on it. I'm talking about Tennessee Serves.
Yeah.
And I know, I do believe some work's been done. I just don't know, Jim, how far y'all have gotten. And then the other piece is, I don't know if we can do it. I know we've looked into it a little bit, but there's a whole lot more volunteerism going on that we can track from Tennessee Serves or AmeriCorps programs. And I have mentioned it before, I have nowhere to put my volunteer numbers. So far I have one person. I haven't posted lately because I haven't gotten anybody signed up through that for Tennessee Serves to help me, but it's okay. I have other avenues. But the other thing is, how can nonprofits who aren't in an AmeriCorps program to report their volunteer and service hours? I mean, because the state, the numbers are not reflecting what's going on in the state. And I don't know if that's something that we can take on. I'm just throwing those out because they've been in discussion for quite a while.
Very good. Thank you. I think I tried to capture at least some broad thoughts. So what I've done is I did put, I tried to put kind of what the outcome might be. So some sort of a measure tied to serves and some things that we probably would need to do in order to accomplish that. I did put the AmeriCorps, you mentioned a better AmeriCorps measure, and then some sort of a measure that, what about all these people that aren't on the platform or that are finding volunteers not through the platform? How are we capturing those hours, right? I think that was that last portion you were saying. People are doing great work, and where do those numbers exist? How do we best capture them? So, okay. Is that accurate? Did I miss anything, Amy?
Yeah, there's no reason why we should be like what is it, the 35th in the country for volunteerism? That's just not a real number. You know, we just don't have the ability to track the other things going on. And I think it would look pretty awesome if we could find a way to do that and show that. I just don't know how, if it's something Volunteer Tennessee can take on.
Yeah, can I ask just for additional clarity on the AmeriCorps measure? Like what would that look like?
Amy, you mentioned AmeriCorps. Can you elaborate a little bit more when you had said AmeriCorps service?
Well, what I was saying is you all get reports from AmeriCorps and I'm assuming any of your funders, and I'm guessing you get reports from, volunteer centers, and you can pull something up from Tennessee Serves, but that's all I was saying is it seems like you're already tracking that.
Right.
So I didn't really have anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
unless we aren't tracking all of that. That's the only thing.
Yeah, we are tracking it. So that's not, you're just saying that we're already doing that. That's not something you're suggesting that we add to the plan. Is that right?
No, I think you all are doing that already.
Yeah.
I think it just got jumbled with whatever else I was saying.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Very good. Other thoughts on this first one? Again, specifically in the realm of the volunteers themselves. I will go ahead and say, Jim, I think the ones that you put here and highlighted, I think are all good. It's like, I think those are, we could tweak the wording a little bit, but I do think that there's some sort of a measure around, I think awards makes sense. It's one thing if you have awesome volunteers, but how are you acknowledging them? So that really comes more, I think, to that volunteer experience, right? It's one thing to say you have volunteers. Are volunteers enjoying volunteering, right? Do they feel as though it's valuable? Do they feel seen in doing it? Do they want to come back and volunteer again? I feel like are all different measures. So, Nestor.
Hi, guys. As I'm listening, we get a lot of our reports from the feds. Do you guys receive any federal reports? Just, back piggybacking on what she had shared. Are there federal reports that share what volunteerism is in each state? Because I know AmeriCorps is because of the federal metrics you have to meet.
Yeah.
But is there other resources that we could use to, respond to this ask, or is there only a federal metric due to the grant that they fund us with?
Yeah. So the AmeriCorps agency doesn't routinely share like their aggregate numbers with us. I mean, that information is out there, but you have to kind of do some digging to get to it. And Amy already referenced the ranking of Volunteer Tennessee, which is actually it's gone up from 34. I think we're in the 20s now. I don't remember exactly where we are, but they also collect that information. That's a survey that's done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I think, which is part of the census. And that's the volunteerism report that they do every other year. So that data is published every other year, but it's, again, it's based on, it's not a collection of like actual like counts of volunteers. It's based on a survey where, the census, the Bureau of Labor Statistics calls people and says, how often did you do X, Y, and Z?
Mhm.
I appreciate that. So as I'm thinking this through, and I apologize, I don't want to take up much of our time because I've got to get a go, but I think the value of what you guys are doing is, thank you, first of all, for facilitating this. This is amazing. Second, if there's anything that I've learned in my position and the opportunity that I have is there a possibility as a team and we get all the funding back to normal and every go back to normal that we could actually have someone to reach out in our state of Tennessee alone and do surveys, productive, be productive in reaching out to nonprofits, faith-based, any nonprofit organization with an email or a text. Hey, we're BTC trying to gauge how many volunteers you have so that we can promote your organization, your group, whatever teams it is that you represent. I'm just thinking forward thinking. And just saying, hey, if the government only does it every 2 years or their platform, maybe we can be assertive and try to see if we can do something on our own court as VTC and be number one. And again, Tennessee leads the way in another program that we should be number one at. When I agree with the team. So this is just food for thought. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the courtesy.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious if it sounds like, at least to my knowledge, the Tennessee Serves is a mechanism at the state level by which we could track hard hours. Now, the challenge being is not, of course, not every organization's on it. That's a challenge. Even if they're on it, are they using those particular features, right? So it's a measure, but it's definitely, to Amy's point, isn't capturing nearly what is actually happening across the state. I'm curious, is there any other mechanisms that exist, whether they're state mechanisms or not, whether it's anything we're tied to, but I mean, maybe Andrea, that might be even something, like, are there, does the Tennessee Nonprofit Network do an annual survey where you ask about out? Like, do those kinds of things happen? Are the United Ways doing that? Are there, because there's all these big entities, right, that have their hands, or is this the closest thing to doing that at the state level?
I think it's on the state level. So we don't necessarily do a volunteer tracking or kind of data tracking for how many numbers of volunteers. We'll do some other surveys like compensation study, those types of things. Think Tennessee, I don't know if we are interested in partnering, but Think Tennessee and Sycamore Institute may be some great resources, or even a university may be a good resource for us to partner with to do that. What we have seen and what would be some good data to also add, and I don't know if this is helpful for y'all, but we do have small nonprofits, and those nonprofits are led by volunteers. It could be one staff person, and that staff person is a volunteer. And so what we don't have is data on that impact. So I think something around that, collecting the data from the whole entire state of like all the volunteers, including churches and those other entities, and still kind of partitioning it out, segmenting it out for the different groups, subsectors, but definitely looking at the number of staff people, or not staff people, but staff people that are actually volunteers at in agencies too. And I think that would be something that we would be interested in also partnering with, because we have with TNN taking off one hat, putting on the other. We'll do some big research studies, but we also want to do some additional white papers. So it could be that we just use that as an avenue to do that.
Very good. Thank you. That I was thinking when you started talking, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, Sycamore. I think about some of those reports, when I look back up here to the top part about, we want to know that younger and older folks, rural and urban individuals and organizations, and that definitely is the kind of like sociological approach that like a Sycamore would take, right? When they talk about health outcomes, when they talk about transportation access, when they talk about educate, whatever it might be. And things that are perhaps able to be measured, that even if everybody on the state was in Tennessee Serves, there's still some of these things we're not going to know about them unless we just, happen to ask directly. So no, I definitely think there's some conversations to be had, but I think, to Amy's point, a big portion of that could also be, in the meantime, we need to up our serves game. Right. I think it's what I heard Amy say is up the serves game in terms of just its usage, maybe fleshing out some features. I feel like we've got a fairly good relationship with Galaxy Digital. I know they're one of their staff folks actually came to the conference this past year and stayed for the conference. And
And
we've got good connections to them. So,
I'll add this. I think the upping of that game, we have so many different kind of volunteer centers within the state that are doing their own thing. Some are using Galaxy Digital, some are using Give Pulse, some are using these other support services. So I think maybe it's even if we could add a portion to our conference, or if we just say, hey, we want to be the convener of all these different volunteer centers in the state and figure out how we could share data better. I don't know if that's ever possible because collaboration is a feat in itself. But definitely looking at maybe like here, just in Memphis, we have Volunteer Odyssey, we have Volunteer Tennessee, we have United Ways collecting volunteer data, and I think only United Way is using Galaxy Digital, and everybody's using something else. So that's 3 just here. Now I know across the state it's probably several more. So
yeah. No, I think
It
that's
might
helpful.
be, I think Andrea, were the one that mentioned maybe, I mean, it might be a great project to propose to a university
absolutely.
to create the mechanism for this.
And
That
I
would
wasn't
be
looking at
used.
East Tennessee, but I'm just saying. No.
But I mean, if we don't have the resources or staffing, maybe
Mhm,
we could get,
mhm.
Right.
and Galaxy Digital may or may not be able, I mean, there may be a feature of it we could use.
Mm,
But yeah, anything that drives it back to Volunteer Tennessee, but maybe because there are universities that look for
mhm,
projects like this, and I don't know how hard or easy that would be, but
mhm.
and some of them might have funding or at the very least manpower to create something like this. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
I like it. So we've got about 2 minutes. One thing that I'll note, just high level observation, is I think for all of these things, just about everything we stated right here in regards to the Serves Network or these other platforms and data collection for volunteers, you could almost replicate all of those measures for the organizations themselves, right? Like, I mean, it's that how many organizations are on the platform, what has been their impact through the platform. They feel as though they're being serviced through the platform. What portions of the state are they servicing? Are they servicing a more rural community? Are they servicing a more urban community? Right. All of these measures we just outlined here could basically you could almost copy and flip for an organization. Right. It's the other half of the coin. So just making that observation that some of these are a little, I think, could easily be replicated if tweaked slightly. So. Okay, we are right at 1 minute. That was very helpful. I know we only got to goal 1, but I'm glad that we're thinking in those senses. So as a reminder, you think this will go out today, Jim? I think is the goal.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
survey. Okay.
the Survey Monkey is ready to go. I just need to put together the email and send it out. And just as a side note, Nathan, will you email me those notes that you just took?
I will. I'll be happy to. So when you all get that, definitely if you've got a little bit of time, heavily encourage you sit down, do what we just did, put all your thoughts in. That's what the survey's for, is just to capture everyone's thoughts and ideas. So basically we're replicating what we just did for each of those questions. And there's some other guiding questions in addition to the metrics. How do we better utilize our existing resources to support those things, right? That could be staffing, that could be existing programming, that could be existing the conference, right? How do we better use the conference to support volunteers, that sort of a thing. So, okay. Well, with that, we are right on time. I don't want to hold you all any longer. Thank you so much. Watch for some follow-up communications about the road show, and then of course watch for this survey from Jim. So, thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks
Have a
so
good
much.
one. You staying on for a second, Ethan?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
let me take off the.
You want to stop the recording?
Mhm.
no.
Wait, hold up. Let me stop
Perfect.
multiple things.